What's up, everybody? It's been a minute, but the boys are back. Brandon Graham, Igor Henriquez, Joe Farfari. It's been a minute, but I'm happy to have everybody back for the On the Block NFL podcast. We're going to go through quickly just what caught our attention with after the first few weeks. Then we're going to get into our picks. So we'll go to Igor first. Igor, you mentioned Aaron Rodgers' injury to start the season with 3 or 4 snaps in. That's obviously had a bit of ripple effect on the Jets, having to throw in Zach Wilson. I guess a certified bust at this point, not looking good, throwing an interception, probably on pace for like 2 interceptions every game. But Igor, go to you first. What stood out for you so far in the first 2 weeks of the NFL season?
I mean, in all honesty, a couple of these teams where I thought they were bona fide contenders have got off to pretty rough starts. I don't want to go after Brandon first off, but his Bengals this first couple of weeks have been
Not looking good.
whatever's been going on with that offense, and I know Burrow missed the majority of the preseason, so it could be a situation where they're not getting enough snaps in, and or whatever it might be. But that's a little bit concerning. And they got the Rams this week again, a game I think they should win, especially at home on Monday night. But if they go 0-3, I know they added a whole new week to the season and everything, but I mean, categorically, 0-3 usually doesn't make the playoffs. So that's been a tough start. There's been other situations that have caught my eye. I mean, the Dolphins have gone off to a decent start. The Rodgers situation kind of threw that whole division off. Obviously, it was supposed to be a big fight between the Bills, the Dolphins, and the Jets. And now with Zach Wilson there, I think it's more of a two-horse race. Me being a Patriots guy, I mean, we're definitely the lower level of the division this year, which, it is what it is. But there's been some decent surprises and some obviously bad moments. Then the Nick Chubb injury probably throws the Browns off for the year. So some big things happen the first couple weeks.
Brandon.
Yeah, I think to start out, I think the Miami Dolphins have been explosive. And I know, of course, Mike McDaniel, everything they do over there, they have a great offensive set, but just seeing how they, run the ball at Mostert, how they throw the ball through the air with Waddle and Hill and everything, I think they've done a really good job and surprised me a little bit this year, especially Tua coming off those 2 major concussions. But I think, yes, the Bengals, they might be going 0-3 against the Rams if Joe Burrow does not suit up on Monday night at Paycor Stadium. Browning has never had a snap in the NFL at all, right? He's a quarterback out of Washington University, so he's the backup quarterback, and so we'll see what happens with that. But I think the Dallas Cowboys, for Dak Prescott, that's not necessarily doing too much. That defense kind of carrying that team and essentially being right there at the top of the league as one of the best with the San Francisco 49ers. That's been a little bit of a surprise, but let's see how much he can sustain the success for the rest of the year.
And Diggs with a massive injury in practice, man, like nothing can go right for them. I feel him for him because I remember the first season he had a lot of picks, so people were saying he really wasn't that good of like a cover corner, but he's become that. I heard some stat like teams aren't even throwing in that direction anymore, so that's going to be a big loss. Obviously, Parsons probably going to be maybe another defensive player of the year for him. That defense looks legit going against a team this week that's going to probably throw the season, and we'll get to that game later. But let's get into the picks. We'll start off with week one, my mistake. 1 p.m. games. We got the Buffalo Bills. I know Brandon likes to circle those wagons, but the Bills have not looked that good this season so far. I know that they won last week against Vegas in a game that they should have won at home. It was their home opener. They're always good at home. Spreads at 6.5. Washington defense, elite. We know that front seven is a beast. That D line is a beast. Brandon, we'll go to you first on your pick for that one.
Yeah, that D line is Montez Sweat, Chase Young. They have just even more guys. Payne, of course, on that line. That D line is right up there with the best in the league. The best D line, I think, in the best league, of course, is done. It's the Dallas Cowboys and it's the New York Jets. Those are the D lines, the cream of the crop in the league. I'll probably take Dallas out of that, but the Jets right there. Sam Howell's played well, right? He's 2-0. He's throwing a lot better than some players in the league right now. Throwing a lot better than Joe Burrow. Getting the ball to his guys, right? Terry McLaurin got one over the top last year and seeing what they're doing essentially. But this is a scary game that kind of picked me. Of course, you do have the Buffalo Bills. I have them at 6. But I'm going to say it doesn't matter because Josh Allen is going to save the day. That offense with Stephon Diggs is going to save the day. They're going to cover the spread. They're going to beat them by more than 6 points, and it's going to be no problem. You know why? Because Josh Allen's going to get out of the pocket, get the ball to Diggs and the other boys. Kincaid's doing a really good job in that after being drafted out of Utah. I think the Buffalo Bills will still cover this game. And it doesn't matter. The Commanders, all the hype's on them. They've done so well. Oh, wow. Our new offensive coordinator, great. No, Josh Allen's going to end it right now. And no one circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills.
Igor.
Well, okay, so Washington's 2-0, but a 4-point win against Arizona, who no one's really thinking about much about Arizona. Murray wasn't playing, and then they had a scrape through Denver last week,
Comeback.
2 points. Yeah. Again, this is the best team they faced by far. Those weren't exactly resounding victories. I'll definitely take the Bills under a touchdown. I think they have the better offense, they have the better defense as a whole, in my opinion. And they'll cause problems there. So if I can get the Bills under a touchdown, I'll take it.
I'm going against you guys. I think that, we talked about who the Bills have played so far, who Washington's played so far. Who have the Bills played? They played Zach Wilson and the Jets. I know, good defense, Monday Nighter. Allen looked terrible in that game. His throws were not good. And Washington, we know they're not going to be a great team, but I think that defense at FedEx Field we know is cursed. I think that Washington's going to hang around in this game. And I can see an upset happening here. The Buffalo, I was talking with a few buddies. Buffalo is one of those teams where I don't think they're as great as they were. I think their best days at either a roster or just whatever it's been, I think that those days are behind them. Not to say they can't go and win the Super Bowl because it is kind of wide open. But I know with Washington this week, and like I said, I would not be shocked if they end up losing this game on the road. That being said, let's go to my team, Tennessee Titans. I have a confession, guys. I know we haven't done the show since. I went against my guys in week 1 of the Survivor. So if you guys remember that game, it was rough. Tennessee was pretty much up the whole game. Then the Saints came back and won by 1 point. I think it was 16-15 or something like that. Had a heart attack. I'm still alive. I'm going with Cleveland in this one. So Cleveland's a 3.5-point favorite. Usually whenever I see that 3.5, I do take that favorite. Tennessee's offense is in shambles. Hopkins hasn't been there, hasn't looked incredible. Henry obviously is really good. And the guy that they drafted in the second round, Tajay something, I believe was his name, he's been really good for them too. Defense is good. I'm going to go with Cleveland at home. I just think a lot of people are writing off Cleveland after that Chubb injury. I think they're still going to run the ball well. Brandon, we talked about defensive lines, another incredible defensive line, just defense in general. So I'm going to ride, unfortunately, with Cleveland here, minus the 3.5 points. Brandon, back to you.
Yeah, this is an ugly game, just flat out. Deshaun Watson, everyone in Cleveland, they got to understand what they got it good. Really and truly, the QBR rating, the worst in the league over the past two years. Guess who it is?
Deshaun
Watson, man. He's right at the bottom, man. He's right at the bottom. Zach Wilson's better than him. That's how bad, right? But anyways, bottom line is he doesn't have that much shine out there. He hasn't played really well. He's got all that money in general. He's still a sex offender. But essentially, what I wanted to say.
We heard that.
Jerome Ford's going to run the ball really well. I do think that at home, I'm going to take the Cleveland Browns. Just an ugly Jersey game, ugly game in general. But I take Cleveland Browns. I ride it. Just exactly what you said. If there is a favorite of 3.5, you should take the favorite, and usually that ends up winning. So I'm going to go with the Browns here.
You were clean sweep Cleveland?
No, I'm going to go with the Tennessee Titans. I think that, Cleveland coming off again a Monday Nighter, low rest in terms of that. Again, going to have to come up with a new plan. They did sign Kareem Hunt to the roster. Again, is Ford going to be able to do what he did against the Steelers? Again, they lost again, and I get Pittsburgh and playing in Pittsburgh stuff. That Steelers team isn't very good, and they lost by 4 points there. I think this is going to be a field goal game, one way or the other. So I'll take the extra half point, and I'll say that the Titans will cover the game. They might lose it still, but it'll be a 3-point game.
You love that field goal, the 3 or the 3.5. I don't think I've ever seen you go for the favorite there.
Love it.
You're consistent with that. Okay. Minnesota and Kirk Cousins, they took on Philly in that Thursday nighter. They had the backdoor cover. A lot of people were upset about that because they were not really in that game. Jefferson's obviously been really good. Cousins is getting his numbers as usual. Chargers are in a must-win. They lost to Tennessee last week, too. They blew that game in overtime. Minnesota started off as the 1-point dog. They're now the 1-point favorite at home. I don't like Minnesota's roster. There's been chatter that Kirk Cousins might be going to the Jets in a desperation trade. I kind of hope that happens because at least Kirk Cousins is going to put up points. The Jets would be competitive in that division if that happens. That being said, the Chargers are one of my locks for the week. I'm dialed in at Chargers +1. I'll take that there because I do think that this is, I don't want to say about their season, but this is a must-win game as an 0-2 team, especially in that AFC West. Brandon, we'll go to
you. Without Austin Ekeler, remember, Austin Ekeler's out. So that's one thing. That running game, I know you have Josh Kelly out of UCLA, so running the ball. This is a game. This is a make or break for Brandon Staley. Brandon Staley loses this game, he's out of town. He's become that very aggressive coach that has become very soft now. There's a 4th and 2 on the Miami Dolphins 30-yard line. He elected to kick the ball on a 4th and 2. He never does that. So he's not the same. He's done fairly soon. I do believe that the Minnesota Vikings, this is a loser goes home kind of game, right? I think whoever loses this game is not making the playoffs, regardless of how the rest of their season will be. I'm going to take the Minnesota Vikings just because at home they were so dominant last year. Kirk Cousins they have to show up. You have Justin Jefferson. All those guys are really mad. They've been in both of the games that they were essentially in this year, and they should have won at least 1 or 2 of them, because they could easily be 2-0. So I'm going to take Minnesota at home with the points. Easy. Essentially just picking the Minnesota Vikings to win. And I think Brandon Staley's going to get fired after this game.
Igor, go ahead.
I'm going to agree with you, Jay. I'm going to take the Chargers here because, again, I had high hopes for the Chargers, again, as one of those teams that might be a low-key dark horse contender. And 0-3 absolutely just finishes them off, just like, when we get to the Bengals, same kind of deal. So I think it's a must-win game for them. The Vikings running game, they got Cam Akers, but it hasn't really done much with Madison. I think if they can take Jefferson out of the game or contain him, I think the Chargers win the game, so I'm taking the Chargers.
I think the Chargers have the better defense too. They definitely have more personnel with Mack and Bosa and a few other guys there. And the corner they got from the Patriots, what was his name?
JC Jackson.
He was great. I remember he blew at his patella the first game. But okay, it's Chargers, and then Brandon has Minnesota.
Yeah.
Green Bay's 2-0. Not a lot of people saw that coming. I took them in week 1 against the Bears. I did not expect the Bears. 1-1, my bad. I did not expect the Bears to be that bad, but they're atrocious. We'll get to them later. New Orleans is a team, too, that I thought could be a dark horse just because I've been a believer in their defense for a long time. I think that they do have maybe a top 5 defense there as well. I'm going with Green Bay in this game, though. It is obviously a very tight game. It's Green Bay -1. I'll make this one quick. I will go with Green Bay in their home opener to win this game at 1. Brandon, we'll go to you again.
Yeah, once again, Aaron Rodgers leaves town. You still have someone else that goes in there and still going to beat the brakes off the Bears, and that's good. Keep that going. Jordan Love actually 6 touchdowns thrown, 0 interceptions. He's played steadily well to start the season. He's played some great balls. Throws a really good ball. Great mechanics for a quarterback as well too. I do like Green Bay as well. Green Bay at home. Once again, Aaron Jones is down. A.J. Dillon has to step up and take on that running game, but I still think they'll probably get through these Saints. The Saints look good. Now, Rashid's a great receiver. Of course, you do have Olave as well there too. Alvin Kamara's not back, but I'm going to take the Green Bay Packers to take this game at home because I believe that they have all these young guys firing in the right cylinders.
And for whatever it's worth, a slugfest Monday night for the Saints that they're just coming off against Carolina too, right? So a short week for them and a tough, grinded out game there. Igor, your pick.
Yeah, same deal. I think the Saints. I watched a lot of that Carolina game. Didn't look all that great against a team that, again, is pretty mediocre. I think the Packers at home, Love's been solid. They'll have enough to win the game there. And again, I think that should be a 3.5. But getting that at 1, I think that's a gift.
Agreed. Atlanta Falcons, a team that a lot of people had to win the NFC South at the beginning of their season. Not really sure why. They're taking on Detroit, a team with a massive Week 1 win at Arrowhead. Did not look good at home last week, losing to Seattle, who was one of my picks against the spread last week. So they're at home. Detroit's at home at a -3, maybe in a reset game as the oddmakers are kind of trying to, get bets on each side, where Atlanta's looked pretty decent so far. They've been in every game. And Detroit in that high-powered offense there has not really been that good. But the team, I guess they're going to have to win eventually. This game I was kind of unsure on, but I am going to go with Detroit by 3 because I do think that at home Dan Campbell's going to have these guys riled up. And I don't want to call it a must-win game that we keep saying because it is just week 3. I think it's a game you have to win against a pretty average Atlanta team at home. So I'm going to take Detroit -3. Hopefully they don't burn me by 1 or 2, but I'll go with that. Brandon.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Detroit Lions as well too. I think they were, once again, still went to overtime against the Seahawks and lost, but still had a chance to go up 2-0. The Atlanta Falcons are 2-0 right now. Bijan Robinson's been incredible out of Texas. They've been Desmond Ritter's steady in general.
Ritter's been okay, right? Like I guess he's been okay.
Yeah, Atlanta Falcons, once again, it's always going to have a great start to the year with Arthur Smith, and they're going to fall off. So I'm going to go with the Detroit Lions to win this game by at least 3. I think they're a good team. Jahmyr Gibbs is potentially supposed to be getting more carries, which is good for them. And I think they're going to, definitely take this game in Detroit easily.
Igor, we're at a 3-point spread. Are you taking the dog again? Are you taking that backdoor field goal?
No, I think, I thought last week for the Lions was a classic letdown situation when they, got that big win against KC, who were feeling themselves a little bit. Probably took the Seahawks a little for granted. I think three is a nice, generous number. I don't think the Falcons are all that great. And if I can take the Lions, who most people have right in that playoff bubble, I'm definitely taking the Lions right there.
My guy went against the 3. I like that. I think that we're all going to cash out on that one. Divisional game in the AFC South, Houston and CJ Stroud, Brandon, going against Jacksonville and Trevor Lawrence. This spread started at 9.5. It's down to 7.5. When I typically see that number at 7.5, I usually do take the favorite because teams are worried about that backdoor. Jacksonville's offense has not been good so far. There's a lot of talk about it, especially last season. They were pretty good when they came back against the Chargers. Everybody was kind of scared of them. Houston's been one of those teams that's obviously been terrible for a while, but have covered. I'm going to go Jacksonville. I don't love either side here, but I'll take Jacksonville and the 7.5. I'll mark that down, Brandon, to you.
Yeah. One Ohio State quarterback stat right here that I pretty much showed you guys is that CJ Stroud has already thrown for over 300 yards in his career. That man oh my gosh, Justin Fields has not thrown for 300 yards yet. And I think that CJ Stroud is getting better and better by the week. But this game, they're not winning. Jacksonville, but Pete Frisco of CBS and some other people said that they think Jacksonville can go as far as the AFC Championship, even the Super Bowl. And I think this is a game they must have at home, and they're gonna build. At least I take them by 14 points at least. So I'm gonna go with Jacksonville Jaguars against the Houston Texans.
You are.
I agree. I think Jacksonville really held their own against KC last week. I think they got numerous weapons. I like Ridley coming back after his gambling suspension. Has been pretty solid. Usually, again, division games are usually tighter, but I saw what Indianapolis did to the Texans last week, and I think that Jaguars defense, along with that offense, I think it'll be a 10 to 14 point win. I'm taking the Jags.
Yeah, they're missing one of their starting corners too, for about a month or two with a hamstring injury. Speaking of divisional games, Igor, Patriots taking on the Jets. Patriots, high hopes. At least a lot of people did. They thought at least they'd be competitive so far. The defense I thought was going to be pretty elite. It's done pretty well. I think the problem with that defense, it's good. It's just they're on the field a lot and they're tired because the offense just sucks with Mac Jones. If the offense can get some kind of possession and keep that defense rested, I like New England, but I feel like everybody and their mother and their friends is taking the Pats this week. For that reason, I'm going to take the Jets. And I think that really what's going to happen there with Saleh is I think they're just going to take the ball out of Zach Wilson's hands because they have no faith. I think they're going to run the ball a large majority of this game, 2/3 of the game. It's going to be one of those grind them out, like maybe a game under 30 points, and it's going to be ugly. But I do think even if the Jets don't win this game, I do like the spread there because I think I was saying earlier, let's say a team goes up 7-0, you get a few field goals. Sorry, it's a 7-6 game. You play off that 1-point winner. It's not always coming down to a 3-point game at the end of it. So I think that the Jets might blow this game, but I'll take them plus the 2.5 because I think that they'll keep it close. Brandon.
Yeah, man, this is probably the tough game. This game shouldn't even be on TV without Rodgers on the field. But anyways, what I'll say is, and no offense to your Patriots, this is in New York. They're coming back after that 9-11 victory, which is great with Xavier Gibson there. This is a tough one. This is probably the hardest one I've had all week. But I believe that Jets D-line will neutralize Mac Jones. I think the DBs will do a good job against Kendrick Bourne and the other receivers that can't even come up. Juju Smith-Schuster, trash. So I don't think they're going to be having a great game offensively. Yes, it's supposed to be good weather in New York, but they will be keeping the ball in Zach Wilson's hands, just like you said, Jay. I agree with you a lot right now, but I'm going to go with the Jets to actually upset and win this game. And once again, the Patriots are 0-2. I think they're going to go 0-3 because the Jets will.
I wouldn't be shocked if the Jets win either. So we got two there. Igor, are you going against your guys or are you taking them?
The funny thing is, again, week 1, Booty doesn't get his feet in. We lose the game. Last week, Strange can't get a yard. We lose the game. Again, I personally was impressed. The Jets defense was pretty embarrassed by the Cowboys. Again, they really got slaughtered out there in Dallas. So I think that they're going to have something to say over there. I think it'll be a tight game. I am going to take the Jets even though I can't see the Pats winning. I think it'll be a real tight game, like maybe like a point or two. But like I said, if it was Rodgers, I probably would take the Jets with ease. But I know Bill usually with these Jets quarterbacks like Wilson and Darnold, he usually does quite well against them. But I'll take the Jets to cover. Sorry, the Jets to cover that 2.5. just because I think they will end up doing something there. Sorry, the Patriots. Well, sorry, Patriots are 2.5 years. I don't think the Jets to actually win the game by a point or two.
Wow. Okay, so we got a clean sweep for Jets there. Yeah, I was going to say, Brand, you touched on it. Juju and those guys can't get any separation. It's going to make the Jets defense job that much easier going against a putrid offense. So I think the Jets are really going to lock down. And Mac Jones, I said it in season one, there was a bit of hype there. I never thought I think he's a backup. I think he's a fine backup. I don't think he's a starter. I think that they might have to move on eventually from him. Big game, Denver and Russell Wilson, who's obviously been terrible. And I heard a stat that the season stats are up to right now are pretty much on par with what he's been in Seattle. But apparently his fourth quarter numbers are terrible, which makes sense because they've blown the lead in the Washington game and they've just been terrible in general. Another game where I feel like the public and everybody's going to be on Miami here. Miami's at home. Big win on Sunday Night Football last week, 6.5-point favorites. Everything is telling me to take Miami, which is why I'm leaning towards Sean Payton and the Broncos there. I'm going to take Rob's boy. Shout out to Rob, the new baby. I hope we'll have you back next week. I'm going to take Denver plus 6.5. I think that high power offense is going to – Denver's defense is obviously not what it used to be. It's still decent. I'm going to go with Denver plus the 6.5. Brandon, to you.
That's tough. You're rocking with Russell. That's tough.
I'm rocking with the coach on this one, not the quarterback.
Okay, that's interesting. By the way, one thing I wanted to say about these games tomorrow is I hate that we have over how many things? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 1:00 games, and only 3 or 4 4:00 games. Like 3 games and 4:00. It's the way that the NFL does this is putrid. I hate the way they do this. It's always one week they have like 8 games at 1:00. You're not going to be able to watch them all. They're terrible. Anyways, with this game, come down to the Miami Dolphins are firing on all cylinders. They have everything going right now. They're going to be at home. I believe that Russell Wilson will play probably well in the first quarter, but will not have enough to sustain themselves throughout the entire game. Because Xavier McCown, all those guys are doing really well. I do think that the Miami Dolphins will win this game for sure. And it comes
5.5. You got them on the spread.
Yeah.
Okay. Igor, your pick.
Yeah, I'm going to the Dolphins and the 7. I think Miami's been really good. I think Tariq last week against the Patriots didn't get a ton done, and they're going to feed him pretty well. I think the Dolphins are just a better team from pretty much every position. Even Mostert was doing quite well last week at the running back position. I think at home, under a touchdown, I'm taking the Dolphins.
Is Waddle low? Can you guys confirm that? I thought I read something that he was injured. Do you guys see anything about that? I thought he was questionable maybe.
I think he's going to play.
I haven't seen anything. I'm being completely out.
Indy and the Colts. Richardson's out. Anthony Richardson looked pretty decent so far. I wasn't really sure when they took the 3rd overall coming out of Florida because there wasn't a lot to look at and he didn't have great numbers. But he looked good so far. He's not going to play, which drawn a blank on the name, Brandon, the old Jags backup quarterback and then to Philly.
Gardner Minshew.
Who is a very capable backup, one of the better ones in the league. Traveling to Baltimore. Odell's out for Baltimore. Baltimore's been great so far. At home favorites, 7.5. This one's tough. Originally, you know what? I'm going to go with Indy. I'm going to take Indy plus the 7.5. This one might get ugly. I just think that Indy's defense has been decent so far. I have a feeling that Minshew's going to just throw the ball all across the field. He's capable of doing that. I'll take them on that. And I'll take Indy plus 7.5, Brandon.
Yeah. This is a tough one as well too, because I don't believe that Gardner Minshew can really move the ball well against the Ravens defense. I think that the Ravens are playing really well. They've been firing 2-0. They're number 1 pretty much in that division right there with the Bengals, so on and so forth. But I think not Odell being out, but more so the fact that Justice Hill is out and you have Gus Edwards pretty much running the ball with someone off the practice roster. That's going to be tough for them to continue that particular thing. So I'll take the Colts. I think the Baltimore Ravens might win by probably 3 points or so. I don't think they're going to blow this game out at all. And I wouldn't be surprised if they do. But I'm going to take the Colts to pretty much go against the spread there.
7.5. Igor.
I think the Ravens at times haven't been all that great so far, and they haven't really had that big breakout game. I mean, that Houston game was decided. I think, overall, again, they got the talent. I think that they'll actually cover that. I think they'll win by 10, so I'm going to take the Ravens.
That's a tough one.
Baltimore minus 7.5. All right, moving on to the 4:00 games. Brandon talked about it, just 3 this week from what I'm seeing. Your Seattle at home coming off a win. In Detroit, lost to the Rams in week 1 against a Rams team that I think a lot of people underestimated, including myself. So 5.5-point favorites, take it on Carolina at home. Bryce is going to be out for Carolina, so they are going to the backup there. And This one too, I think like a lot of people are going to take Seattle. Carolina coming off a short week, and I'm going to go Carolina there just because I think that the defense is going to keep them in the game. I do like their defense, and Seattle's offense isn't really scaring me. So I will take Carolina plus the 5.5. Brandon.
Yeah, I will not take Carolina plus 7.5. If Andy Dalton going there, I'm going to take the Seahawks to cover. I think Jackson Smith and Jigba, all those receivers after that really great overtime win, are going to come back and want to hammer the Panthers, especially now with the backup quarterback in. I'm taking Seattle to win this game by at least 7.5. So I'm going to take Seattle Seahawks the points.
Igor.
Yeah, Seattle's a tough place to play. Bryce Young, he's been okay. He hasn't been massively stellar. I think the Seahawks cover by a touchdown easily.
You guys are trying to persuade me. I might be going the other way. And Dalton, when Dalton even was with the Cowboys when he had played it, he was not the same guy he was with Cincy. It looks like he's really regressed. Didn't look like the same guy. I'm not going to switch my pick, even though I want to. I'll stay with Carolina. Dallas, 13-point favorites, traveling to Arizona. Dallas, I think, has been by far the most impressive team this season. Igor, say it.
How about them Cowboys?
13-point favorites at Arizona. This one looks too easy, which is the only reason why I'm kind of scared. I feel like odds makers maybe should have made this at like 14.5 just so that you can get some money on both sides. If you've seen Arizona's games this far, pity to you, and I apologize, but even just following the scores, I had a buddy that took the Giants last week after they got embarrassed by Dallas in week 1, and they play in Arizona. There was like a 21 or 20 plus point spread at that point when they were losing, and he was worried about a survivor. And I sent a message and I was like, dude, have some faith because Arizona wants the top pick next year. I can see them throwing this game. Lo and behold, they throw the game, and the Giants end up winning. Arizona doesn't want to win a game this season. Maybe one just to not be embarrassed. Dallas on 13. It's tough, man. It's really tough. I'm going to go Arizona. I don't know how. It doesn't make any sense, but I'm going to take Arizona because this game seems way too easy, and I think that the spread should be higher. Brandon.
I'm the same. I'm just going to say I'm going to go with Arizona. I think that they've heard all the noise. Josh Dobbs playing okay. But at the same time, this team is tanking, as we know, but I don't think they want to go out there and get embarrassed. So I'm going to take Arizona. Plus, of course, with Diggs out, that might be a factor. But Arizona, I'm going to say Arizona gets spread.
You are.
Yeah, I agree. I think I'll take the Cardinals. I think the Cowboys will win the game, and I think they'll only really get tested when they go to San Francisco in a couple of weeks. But yeah, I mean, they beat up the Giants, the Jets without Rodgers, so the Cowboy hype is getting out of control. But like I said, it always happens in a couple of weeks that they'll go back down to where they usually are.
Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked though if they end up in the NFC Championship game. Would you guys?
No, I wouldn't be shocked, but they'll get their breaks literally messed up by the 49ers.
Oh, by the 49ers. Okay.
Oh, they got the 49ers in like 2 or 3 weeks, so we'll see how they do that. That'll be their litmus test, in my opinion.
For sure.
Yeah. 49ers were my survivor pick last week, which kind of had me scared against the Rams. I didn't think that game would be that close, and I was kind of biting my nails up until the end, but they pulled it out. Last 4:00 game, the Chiefs. Chiefs at home, 12.5 favorites against Chicago. Another one that's tough. Kansas City notoriously the past few years doesn't cover very well at home or on the road. Last week, obviously, ended up picking up the win after the week 1 loss. Chicago and Fields look terrible. I mean, they can't move the ball. Kansas City went from having one of the worst defenses. When we used to do the show, we talked about Kansas City and Tennessee, which their defenses were terrible. Both teams now very solid defense. Kansas City did it through the draft. I like them a lot. Another game where it makes too much sense to take Kansas City, but I'm going to take Kansas City because I can't see Chicago putting up enough points to keep this game close. So I got Kansas City minus the 12.5. Brandon, I have a feeling you're on the same side.
The Matt Nagy revenge game. Offensive coordinator Matt Nagy was going up against the Bears. Matt Nagy game. This will be good. He's gonna do all the foolish things. He's the worst, but don't worry because it's still Kansas City. She's still the guy that the Bears did not draft in Pat Mahomes. The Matt Nagy game is gonna go towards the Kansas City Chiefs. They're gonna win by more than 12 points, 12.5 points. Take them, of course. I'm riding with Matt Nagy and the Chiefs.
I think it might be 21, man. I think that this one might get ugly. I just don't know if Chicago's going to put up points. Igor.
You know what? I think a lot of those Bears guys hate Matt Nagy so much that they'll come out and play. I'm gonna take the Bears to actually cover that spread, just because I think they hate Nagy so much that they'll actually come and play. And I'll be honest with you, the KC offense has not exactly been lighting it up. Man.
No.
Oh, besides Tony dropping balls, without Travis Kelce, that first week was a disaster. So, like I said, to do double digits there, you're gonna have to really come to play. So, Justin Fields a couple runs here and there. I'm gonna take them to actually cover the spread just to get back at Nagy.
That is interesting.
Game of the week.
Game of the week. Circle that one. We're gonna come back to that. Now I'm kind of thinking about the spread going back there. I don't know. I just think Kansas City's gonna keep Fields in the pocket and force him to throw. And if that's gonna happen, it's not gonna be very good for Chicago. 8 p.m. game. Pittsburgh Steelers traveling to Vegas. Vegas 2.5 point favorites here. JJ Watt set the record last week for, crazy to say, but he is now the sacks leader in Pittsburgh Steelers history, which is absolutely insane. Insane. And I think he went like 30th overall too in that draft. Okay, I'm gonna actually go last on this one. Igor, we'll go to you first because I'm kind of undecided still in this game. Pittsburgh at Vegas. Vegas minus 2.5. Igor, take it away.
Late night in Vegas on a Sunday night. That usually leads to problems for people. I'm going to take the Raiders because Lord knows what the Steelers are going to be up to most of the week. So I'm taking the Raiders to cover that.
And that's a short week for Pittsburgh too, right?
Exactly.
For a weekend, man, that defense is going to come out to play for the Raiders, man. The Raiders. I'm going to take the Raiders to cover this. I think the Raiders will come out and win. I don't think the offense or Pittsburgh Steelers are figured out yet. I don't think they're going to anytime soon. I think it's the Raiders' time to shine. I hope.
Clean sweep. I'll go Raiders. So you guys convince me what stays in Vegas. What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. I'll take Vegas on the 2.5. I don't think Pittsburgh's that good, man. I just think last week was a divisional game. It was emotional after that injury. It was one of the ugliest games I watched. I didn't watch the whole thing, but it was terrible to watch. Just that injury and everything else that happened to Chubb. So I'll go Vegas on the 2.5 too. I think that Pittsburgh is just going to get a lot of public money anyways. I'll take the Raiders there. Monday nighter, Philly, 5 point favorites taking on Tampa. Tampa's at home. Tampa's shocked me so far. I didn't think that they would be this good, but the defense is still there. The defense has been pretty solid. And the quarterback has been pretty good for them. Former number 1 overall pick with Cleveland. Drawing a blank on his name.
Baker Mayfield.
Baker. We know that's not going to last forever either. I think that Philly was going to kind of blow them out. I got an inflated